Our Shalom, first and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakaha Kodash. A double honors unto the apostles and elders of JMS Great Millstone. And a sincere Shalom to Yakim bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. And as you see, this article is from endtimeheadlines.org. And it reads, the DHS wants a single search engine to flag faces and fingerprints across agencies. Right, and what you see here, this image, it says Big Brother is watching you. Matter of fact, grab a quick preset. I'm just line this up real quick. 2 Thessalonians 2. But what you see here, it is basically Esau and his technology trying to exalt himself, you know, to be omnipotent, right? Or omniscient, all seeing, all knowing, man. Right. And he's doing it by way of tech, AI, and technology, man. Right. It says the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is pursuing a major expansion of its what? Biometric infrastructure. Right. Bio meaning what? Of your details of your, for example, your heart rates, your fingerprints, your iris scan. Right. The bio is what? The physical being or the biology of you. And the metric is what? The data of you. Right. So combining that together, the data with the bio is your data, man. You know, your personal data, your personal biometrics, right? Heart rate, blood, blood type, so forth and so on. It says it's pursuing a major expansion, and this expansion is not just only in the U.S., right? This is for the NWO or the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order, man. It says a major expansion of its biometric infrastructure by asking private contractors to design a single integrated search system capable of comparing facial images, fingerprints, iris scans, and potentially other identifiers across multiple federal agencies. Right. So this ultimately, in order to categorize, right, those who he deems as adverse or opposed unto his system. Matter of fact, let's go into that in the book of Revelation. Let me pull it up really quick, Salakia. This is Revelation 12 and 10, and it reads, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our power and the power of his anointed Yahweh Shai. For the accuser, right, of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night. When you go into this word accuser, it's the word categoreo, right? G2723, categoreo. And it tells you to accuse, to make an accusation, right? To charge with some offense, right? And who is he going to be charging the offense of, right? Ultimately, we understand that the men and women who don't believe in the system and who are ultimately trusting in Yahweh Bashim Shai, those are going to be the individuals whom Esau is going to categorize as that domestic tease, so forth and so on. I have the word category right here. And it says category from the online Edom. It says a highest notion, the accusation, the prediction or category, right? To speak against, to accuse, to assert and predicate, right? And that's what he wants to do. He wants to accuse, he wants to speak against, and ultimately predicate false pretenses against those that actually fear Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? And we know through internet history, right, through biometrics, right, through all these different avenues, Esau is going to what? He's going to set up these pathways, or to basically loop you into a group of individuals that are rebelling against him, right? Which makes it easier for him to do what? To take away your liberties, right? To take away, the luxury, so to speak, right? Now, what I did is I went into chat and I typed out, how would a single search engine for all platforms streamline a technocratic system for the government? How could that system then bind and strip citizens of all liberty and freedom? Right. So it says it's going to break it down into two parts. How a signal, it's like a single unified search data platform could streamline the technocratic government system, and how in a worst case scenario, that same system could be abused to restrict liberty, right? And this, just get to the point. It says how a single search engine could streamline the technocratic system. A technocracy prioritizes rule by technical experts, data, and algorithmic decision making. A unified national global search / data platform could function as a central intelligence layer across society, right? It says the central data integration. Instead of a separate system for taxes, healthcare, criminal records, education, banking, employment, travel, social media, you have one searchable system linking all records to a unified digital ID, right? Meaning what? In order to log onto the internet, in order to buy and sell, you need what? That digital ID in order to be within that society to navigate, right? And that's why the MOTB, or the prophecy in Revelation 13 and 16, is such a heavy prophecy, man, because you receiving of this technology and ultimately trying to be one with the system again in order to live comfortably, quote unquote, upon the earth. Yahweh Shema Shah is going to destroy you because you're ultimately making Esau your God and putting off the Most High and His Son, right? And that's why the 15th verse is here, Revelation 13 and 15. And it said, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Matter of fact, let's go into that word life. Nuema G4151. It says life. It says the spirit, i.e. the vital principle by which the body is animated, right? It says the spirit, a simple essence. It says devoid of all, or at least all grosser matter, possessed of the power of knowing, desiring, deciding, and acting, right? It says of an angel. It says the disposition or influence which fills and governs the soul of anyone, an efficient source of any power, affection, emotion, desire, right? It says the vital principle, mental disposition, the breath, right? And ultimately, Esau creating this system will be in charge, to what? To come up with decisions on whether to accuse or to acquit, right? To come up with decisions of allowing someone to live another month, so to speak, right? Because even when you take a look at the algorithm in which, AI is, right? Esau has created certain engines and certain websites from these AI algorithms, and these algorithms have then duplicated themselves. Even when Esau went to shut them down, they've duplicated themselves. They've created code within themselves to where they have these different safeguards to, okay, if our producers were to set up this point to try to interrupt our algorithm, well, we can bypass this. So it's ultimately thinking for itself, right? It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, right? Because what are these different facets of the image of the beast? Well, technocracy being a huge one. You have the Hollywood industry being one. You have the Food and Drug Administration being one. You have the educational system. You have the government system, right? The banking system. These are all parts of the image of the beast, man, right? It says that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So in any way in which you rebel in Esau's eyes, which is basically just not what's the word? It started with a C. Lord, will it come back to me? Well, in Esau's words, is basically if you're not consenting, right? Or if you don't believe in the notion in which he pushes, guess what? He's going to name you a domestic T, man. He's going to label you as opposing this system, thus being able to or justifying locking you up or killing you. And that's why the government has gotten what? A bunch of smart guillotines. They bought millions of rounds of hollow, hollow head bullets, or however you say it, right? All these different methods in order to get rid of those, right, that oppose the system, right? It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that's a physical mark, the word charagma, right? It says, and that no man might buy or sell save he that hath the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? So you go into the implementation of that mark, right? Which is the word is charagma, which when you go into the root word of that is the karax, which is the pale stake or palisade or the instrument, the tool used to deliver that physical mark into the body, right? And then the root word of karax is graphos, right? Which is the information stored within that device, whether it being your biometric identification values, that data set, meaning what your heart rates, your normal BPM, your blood pressure, any medical information you may have, your bank account information, everything that a physical paper, what you call it, identification would be for, it would be on that MARK, man, and your driver's license information, right? Your insurance information, so forth and so on, right? So he's ultimately streamlining all of these different agencies to create one system, which is only going to be accessible by this device. And that's the point, man, right? It says, in that no man might buy or sell save he that hath the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 603 score and 6. So we're going to go into this 603 score 6 or 666, which goes into the word chi-psi stigma. And we're going to go into this root word stigma to show forth what Esau plans to do. The word is stigma, right? Oh, snap. I haven't been showing the tab. It's like the word is stigma, right? It says a mark pricked in or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their powers. And it says the stigma is the what? The mark incised or punched, right? Going back to the word charagma, for recognition of ownership, showing that what? You're cattle, i.e. figuratively a scar of service or a mark. You're bowing down into Esau, being devoted unto him as if he was a god, right? It says slaves and soldiers bore the name or stamped their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belonged to. And there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in the way with the token of their gods or their powers, right? So when we go back here, and it tells us that the DHS wants a single search engine to flag faces and fingerprints across agencies. Well, to flag a face or a fingerprint means that you're singling out an individual, right? And why would an individual need to be singled out when you're building forth this new platform in order for all people to be on it? You would only flag those that are what? That are disobedient in your eyes, those that are fighting against the system, so to speak, right? So when we go back to here in the chat, it says you would have one searchable system linking all records to a unified digital ID. Benefits for government efficiency are what? Real-time population statistics. So they'll know exactly when one dies because what? Their chip signal, it would ultimately just flatline, right? It says faster fraud detection because you no longer have under the table money deals being transferred, right? You can no longer just take someone's identification. You would essentially have to take their CHIP, right, which is now a part of their body, right? It says automated compliance checks, meaning what? If you're disobedient, just like the Belko experiment, what do? They just shut it off, right? It says instant background checks, AI policy simulation, predictive modeling, crime, disease, economic shifts. Because in that chip, in the CHI to the P, they'll know when a person's heart rate goes up due to an irregularity, right? They'll know when someone is sick, right? Because your body, the patterns of that body due to your biometrics, of your regular biometrics being off, right? Guess what? They can tell when you're sick. Economic shifts. They'll know if you're not spending the amount of money that you were supposed to spend. In a technocracy, that kind of system becomes the nervous system of the state, right? Which the nervous system does what? That brain sends forth those waves throughout the body, right? Or those electromagnetic signals in order to do what? In order to spike actions that flow throughout the body. right? So when we go back here to the end time headlines, it tells us under the current approach, various DHS agencies maintain separate biometric tools that work independently and do not easily share data, right? They may have to wait through a certain number of days for a company to respond to an email, right? They may have to wait a certain number of days under law, for a certain piece of information to be faxed over into another agency. But under this one system, it's all streamlined, right? They all have access of everything. Says the new unified platform envisioned by the department would standardize how biometric records are stored and searched, theoretically making it easier for the DHS personnel to run cross-agency queries for identities captured at borders and enforcement actions and or domestic checkpoints. For example, and you go to your local state building, right, to get your fingerprint scanned or to get a quote unquote background check, right? Well, it takes time for those things to be sent forth onto your onto your job. Well, through this system, it's now directly sent to your job. As soon as you get it done, right, now your job has record of it because it's one system running everything. And this is ultimately what Esau wants to do in order to make the MOTB system, easier for him to navigate in, right? This is the book of Psalms, the 37th chapter and the 35th verse. And it reads, I have seen the wicked in great power spreading himself like a green bay tree, right? And this is ultimately his reach, a dominating over all these different facets of life, right? This is his reach spreading across all these facets of life to make what his enterprise smoother to flow through, man. This is evident that prophecies like this is happening as we speak, man. That's why it's imperative for you to get right in the eyes of Yahweh Bashim Shai, man. Because the Lord is going to allow Esau to do these things, right? Though the scripture says in the book of Job, the Lord won't allow him to fully set forth that enterprise. Hey, but we're going to see, this technocracy spread before we get up out of here, man. Right? We're going to see that type of control be put across the citizens of the U.S., man, and ultimately the world, because it's a new world order. All nations are in cahoot with it, man. That's why when we go into the book of Psalms, our 83rd chapter, it tells us, and I'm going to read it at the top. It says, keep not thou silent, O Yahweh, and hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. And when we read that in the NLT, it tells us they devise crafty schemes against your people. Right? Let's look up that word scheme. This is the word scheme in the online Edom, and it reads a scheme and figure of speech. Right? It says the nature of a thing, to have, hold, or be given in a state of condition. Right? It also says what? The meaning, plan of action devised to attain some end. Right? And E's end is that he wants what? He wants your spirit. Right? He wants you to be under him forever, man. He wants a system of workers. He wants a system of individuals that have to beg for everything that he feeds them, right? And right now he already has, a system that's ruling, but this isn't enough, right? As the scripture says, he's not satisfied even with blood, right? So complete control isn't enough of E, right? It's not enough for him, man. This covetousness within him is deeper. It's deeper, man. And ultimately he's seeking to try to get the Lord's elect, right? That's his main goal, is ultimately to try to break the Lord's chosen. It says the plan of action devised to attain some end, and unfavorable overtones of what? Selfishness and deviousness began to creep into the world at that time. Complex unity of coordinated components, elements, and a connected, orderly arrangement. And that's ultimately what E is trying to set up. And this is his what? This is his MO, the selfishness and deviousness, right? The scriptures speak about him being cunning, right? Him being covetous, him never being satisfied, right? The thief coming not but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Well, is that not selfishness and deviousness to the point where he'll destroy his own self, right? Because he just can't stop. He can't have enough. So when we go back to Psalms 83, and it tells us, it says they devise crafty schemes against your people. They conspire, that word conspire, con meaning with, spire, or spire, in the Latin means to what? To breathe together, right? They conspire against your precious ones. Come, they say, let us wipe out Israel as a nation. We will destroy the very memory of its existence. Yes, this was their unanimous decision, showing that all these nations are in line with helping exalt himself to the heavens. It says they signed a treaty as allies against you, right? That's that covenant between them all, right? These Edomites, number one, right? Ishmael, Moabites and Hagarites, Gabalites and Ammonites, Amalekites, which is who? The chief house of Edom. They're the ones running this system, man. It says in people of Philistia and Tyre. Assyria has joined them too, and is allies with the descendants of Lot, right? So all these nations included, man. All the heathen are doing whatever it takes in order to what? Help further the system. And it's being ran by these niggas here, right? These are the main culprits, right? Yahweh Shem Shah gave the earth into their hands, the chief house of Edom, right? And through them, hell is all around the world, right? There's no peace because these niggas are ruling, right? So when we get back here, it says, Wire reports that the proposal could cost billions of dollars and involve converting incompatible legacy systems into a common format, so like usable by the new search engine. I blow my nose real quick. So like Since the records reviewed by Wire indicate that DHS intends for the system not only to handle straightforward verification, matching a single face or fingerprint into an existing record, but also to support broader investigative functions, meaning what? Those who have a bound on their chip where it says, hey, you can't cross a certain threshold, you can't cross a certain country or a certain jurisdiction because of your chip. Guess what? Hey, you'll be monitored because of that, right? Wants it to where a social credit score is within the system to where liberties are given unto given unto citizens, that are quote unquote the best citizens of his system, right? You obey everything and you don't fight against anything. Every news thing you hear, every new jab that has to be administered, you're first in line, right? He's going to give those citizens the best type of what? Incentives, right? You're going to have full access onto the system, so to speak, right? Because you're the greatest slave. Just like in that Black Mirror episode, man. I can't think of the name. I know it has something to do with 1 second. I'm gonna figure out the name of this really quick. Black Mirror credit system. Nosedive. The episode was called Nosedive, man. And I'm gonna read the overview right now. Okay. I'm gonna click this one, see if we can get it. It says Nosedive is the first episode of season 3 of Black Mirror. It was written whatever. Short summary: a woman desperate to boost her social media score hits the jackpot when she's invited to a swanky wedding, but the trip doesn't go as planned. Always giving, damn, everything. I just want a good synopsis, man. So 1 second. I just want a good synopsis. Let's see. I'm gonna share this tab again. And watch this episode if you're able, man. Here we go. Let's try this one out. Oops. It says Black Mirror's Nosedive, a chilling glimpse of social currency. Says one of the most striking episodes of Nosedive where society is driven by a pervasive social rating system. Every interaction, from a smile to a coffee order, is scored publicly, and those scores dictate your social standing, job opportunities, even where you can live, right? It says watching it now, it's hard not to see a reflection of our own world, where the currency isn't just money, but likes, followers, and engagement, particularly for people in their late teens and early 20s. Nosedive exposes how deeply our sense of self is knotted with how effectively we curate our online personas, right? It says the episode's pastel colored dystopia highlights the exhausting performance of perfection and the isolating consequences when that facade cracks. It's a sharp warning about the trajectory of social media culture and ultimately what the government is trying to do. It says the pressure to maintain a polished digital identity isn't just a trivial inconvenience. It's a becoming source of anxiety, exclusion, and alienation. As we scroll through filtered lives, the episode asks, are we measuring our value in genuine human connection or in metrics designed to keep us hooked and compliant? And that's what he wants. He wants a compliant society, right? And with that compliance, he's going to give you what? Liberties, right? He's going to give you what? More opportunities. So when we go here, back, it says Wire reports that the proposal could cost billions of dollars and involve converting incompatible legacy systems into a common format usable by the new search engine. All right, that's that. 1 second. It says the records viewed by Wire indicate that the DHS intends for the system not only to handle straightforward verification, matching a single face or fingerprint to an existing record, but also to support broader investigative functions. Right. So going back to chat, it says in a technocracy, that kind of system becomes the nervous system of the state, algorithm or algorithmic governance. Once centralized, permits could be auto approved or denied, benefits auto allocated, risk scores are auto generated, tax enforcement automated, law enforcement guided by predictive analytics. Human discretion decreases, machine scoring increases. The economic optimization. Such a system could track all transactions, Revelation 13:16, monitor supply chains, adjust pricing and taxation dynamically, predict shortages, and optimize labor allocation. And this is already being done, right, before our faces. For example, something like uh, adjust pricing and taxation dynamically and optimizing labor allocation. And for example, depending on what city you stay in and what zip code you live in, when you go to do something like book a plane ticket, right? The algorithm is already designed with these web servers to boost prices depending on where you're staying socioeconomically, man. So if you're in a higher demographic as part of income, guess what? System will change your flight cost where you're living, depending on where you live, right? And this information has came from individuals that work within the aviation system, right? But that happens. For example, something like door dashing, that price, or Instacarting, that price of where you're buying or where your phone is located, those prices will actually rise or fall depending on where you're living. So prices are already being adjusted per your location, right? So it says, how could it be used to strip your liberty? It's like total surveillance capability. If every action is searchable, purchase, travel, speech, online activity, media data, and associations, then privacy effectively disappears. Without privacy, freedom of thought and association shrink, right? And this all goes back to what? When we go into the book of Second Thessalonians the 2. It's like a Second Thessalonians the 2. Hey, I'm a Second Thessalonians the 2nd chapter, the 3rd verse. It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except their falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, Esau Edom, right? Son of destruction, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High, or that is worshipped, so that he has a power, sitteth in the temple of Yahweh, showing himself that he is a God. And this is his complex, right? believing that he needs to be the one that's omniscient. He needs to be the one that's what is it? Omniscient, omnipotent, right? And his system is going to allow that type of range, to be in effect, right? Going back here, there's social scoring mechanisms. If algorithms determine loan eligibility, travel permissions, job access, and public service access, then dissent can be quietly penalized. No arrest, no trial required, just algorithmic exclusion. Meaning what? They can basically boot you out the system or flag you, going back to what? This article here, right? Flag you due to what? Investigative functions. In such cases, the database would return rank lists of possible matches for human analysts to review. Documents also reveal a placeholder for voice prints analysis, though details on how that would be implemented are still undefined. But this is what he's trying to do. Hence, this picture here. So to get back to the chat, it says, if integrated with the central bank digital currency, which we understand that's what they're setting up, authorities will freeze accounts instantly, restrict purchases, set expiration dates on money, and enforce geographic spending limits. Financial freedom becomes conditional based on how good of a what? Slave and servant you are into the system, right? He's going to continue to feed those that help feed the system. If you're trying to break out of it or you don't want to be in the first place, guess what? Hey, he has ways through AI to track you and to harm you. That's why the scripture speaks about what? I've seen the souls of those that were beheaded, right? Because they didn't what? Bow down. Let's grab that. Revelation 12. This Revelation. It's like it. It's like it is Revelation. Oops. Sheesh. Revelation 20 and 4. And it reads, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua, right? That testimony, right? Testimony of Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy. And for the word of the Most High, in which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads, right? These are those that didn't bow down, or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Yahushua 1,000 years, right? And it's really eternity, man, right? World without end. And it's only for the elect and the 1/3, right? But this shows you those that didn't bow down, what? Hey, if they had to be a martyr, then that's what it was. But that's what it's going to come down to, right? So getting back here, I'm almost done, It says if one search engine indexes all information, it could prioritize certain narratives, suppress dissenting viewpoints, and that's what we're seeing in the attack upon the truth coming, right? It says shape public perception, right? Because they have what? Esau's in control of what? The media, which is just another part of the sword. Rewrite visibility of history. And you see them taking it out of the school books. You see them taking down certain of these what you call historical sites that shows forth E's wickedness, right? His hatred towards Jacob, right? You see them taking it out of what? Museums. Control of information equals control of belief formation, right? Automated law enforcement. They now have drones that are what? Helping out police officers, right? Which are flagging individuals before crimes occur, which assign risk profiles, which justify preemptive surveillance. Oh, now we need a camera on every corner because the crime rate here is just astronomical, right? The danger here is removing due process. Look at what a kangaroo court is. Hey, the brother Kasha Kwala from Atlanta did a beautiful lesson on it. I watched it, had to land back through the spirit, man. Right? So go watch those videos. It says the core issue, centralization of power. The real risk is not the search engine itself, it's who controls it. And we read in Psalms 83, which nations are feeding it. But the main nation or tribe of that nation, of the nation of Edom, is who? Amalek. the so-called, I'll just say the 1948er. Keep it salty. Go look up that year and what happened in the land of Israel. Right? Matter of fact, I'm gonna just say it. Hey, the rats, man. The JWSs. It's that simple. So-called, right? And I'm just grabbed at this point. It says the more optimized and automated governance becomes, the more careful society must be about protecting its rights. But we're at the point where it doesn't matter, man. He is gonna come down having that great wrath because he knoweth that he have but a short time. Right? This is what the secret council of the wicked wants. And ultimately, Yahweh Shema Shah is going to allow them to build it up to a certain level. Right? But he's also going to throw down that system, because the next system to rule is the nation of Israel, world without end, man. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. But that's the point. This technocracy is about to be streamlined, man. And all it takes is for one event for Esau to close forth those breaches to usher in this new system, and people are going to be begging for it. So that's the point. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakah HaKodash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone, and a sincere shalom to Yakim, bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. Shalom.